Hello everybody, my name is Brady and we are back with another React video, and today we're going to be checking out more from Geography Now. So last time I checked out their video on Afghanistan and I thought it was pretty cool. I like the style of these videos, and since they do them in alphabetical order, it gives me somewhere to go with it. I don't have to just pick random countries. I can go down the line and learn stuff about countries that I wouldn't typically take the time to learn about. So I think this series is going to be really cool on this channel, and I hope you guys end up liking it because I want to check out more of their stuff on here. I think it's going to be really nice. So today's video is on Albania. Talk about a country I wouldn't have thought to learn a little bit more about. Like they're there and they got a really cool flag. I'll say that much. As far as like, it's evil villain flag material. It's like the black birds on the red background. Like, it's got that going for them, but I don't know much about them otherwise. I just know it's a pretty rad flag. So I'm hoping to learn something today. This should be a lot of fun. Let's get it started.
You know how in high school there's always like that one little emo kid that just kind of keeps to themselves and sits in the corner, but then about 10 years later at the reunion you find out they actually have a lot of friends and they're pretty cool? That's kind of like what Albania is.
It's time to learn geography.
No! Yeah.
Now you know the drill. Before anything, let's dissect that flag.
This is my favorite part here because I spent so much time doing flag review on this channel, and it's fun to learn the stuff behind it. I kind of went out of my way to not learn the story behind flags because I just wanted to judge them from like a purely visual perspective. But it is good to learn about it, and really a flag can give you a little bit of insight into a place's culture. Even with Afghanistan, just the choice of colors. Each color had its own little significance. Not every flag seems like it's very well thought out. There are some that just feels like they could have done better, but this one I really do want to learn a little bit about.
As you can see, the Albanian flag is actually pretty simple. It's just a red banner with a double-headed eagle emblem on top of it. The red representing bravery and courage, and the double-headed eagle is an emblem that the Albanians have claimed that they have historically used to identify themselves as a people group, even though there may be some other countries that would argue.
Hold on, I want to look at those other two.
Even though there may be some other countries that...
Yeah, those are, like, this one on the left looks kind of cool. The one on the right, it's all right. But I really do think that the Albanian one does the double-headed eagle thing best. I guess because it's kind of minimalistic, it strips down the design a little bit and really sits well on a flag. Like, these things, they work well in, like, emblem, crest, coat of arms sort of things. I think the other one translates to a flag a little bit better. So give them a little bit of credit there. They did a good job with it.
That would argue. In terms of its political geography, Albania is located in the South Balkan region, right north of Greece, south of Montenegro, west of Macedonia, and Kosovo, even though Serbia will tell you that Kosovo is totally not Kosovo and it's just part of Serbia, but we'll discuss that in another video, and off the coast of the Ionian and the Adriatic Seas. Now when it comes to Albania's borders, it almost kind of looks like every single country surrounding Albania is trying to take as much coastline away as they can from Albania. In the south, Greece is like, I'm just gonna take these extra 10 miles of beach. In the north, Montenegro's like, I'm just gonna take the entire Buna River. And even inland, Macedonia's like, I'm just gonna take the majority of the Prespa and Ohrid lakes and access to those lakes. Albania doesn't really get much regard. Now, unlike many of its neighbors that border...
Like you look at it and I couldn't even see where Greece was taking it. Like it's such like a small little sliver here. It seems like strategically though, Albania's not in the worst place if it has like the political strength to like assert a little bit of importance. But if it's just getting pushed around, then yeah, it's taking what seems like geographically a decently advantageous place. Like I don't know if it's like the best place in the region, but it doesn't seem like it's got the worst deal. But if it's getting pushed around, it's taken away some of its major advantages there, which is pretty lame of them.
The Mediterranean, Albania doesn't really have many islands that border its coastline. In fact, there are only about 7 to 10-ish islands, most of which are small, uninhabited, or barely inhabited, like Tongo and Stilo Island in the south, which each only have one house on them, and most of the other ones are basically barely even the size of an IKEA. However, a lot of them do have a lot of cool historical ancient sites and landmarks on them, such as Ali Pasha Castle on Butrint and the 13th century monastery on Zvenes Island, except for one, Sazan Island. Sazan Island has actually played a very crucial role in Albania's history. It was taken over by the Romans, and then the Byzantines, and the Ottomans, and the Greeks, and the Italians, and the British, and then the Greeks, but the Greeks didn't want it again, so they gave it to the Italians. And then the Italians finally gave it to Albania. It's a long story. To this day, Sazan Island is the only somewhat inhabited island, as the people living there are only there to maintain the former military bases that were built.
Okay, so, like, yeah, having it... If they have maybe a significant naval presence, you would think that their maintenance of the other islands would be a little bit better. It seems like this one's being maintained more as, like, an obligation. And it seems like with what's cut into their coast, it makes me question how significant their military or specifically naval presence is, because it seems like as far as like water goes, they're not really getting their way all that much. They seem to only get this particular island, which more important than their other islands, but like seemingly doesn't seem to have been valued all that much by the previous occupants.
In terms of its physical geography, Albania is about 70% mountainous, with about 25% of the land being arable for agriculture and farming, which, by the way, is a sector that employs about half of the entire population of Albania. Albanians take their agriculture very seriously. In fact, for a while, they were completely closed off from the rest of the world and self-reliant. In addition to fruits and vegetables and other
That's kind of rare these days. You don't see a lot of countries that don't rely as much on trade. If you are agricultural, you can maintain that a little bit better. Like that's one of the things. Like if you're not self-reliant in the sense of agriculture, there's no maintaining it. You just can't be on your own. You've got to connect with the rest of the world. But that's actually really a cool element. That sort of isolationism, I don't know if that's like a perfect word to describe it here. I don't have like a full understanding of what the political context was at the time, but that sort of thing is just fascinating. A lot of people these days have developed a bit of an isolationism instinct, I guess, because all over, people are probably starting to get concerned about their dependence on other countries. While there do come benefits, there is some instability there. You're tied to one another. You're tied to their benefits and their failures in a lot of ways. So, yeah, that's a thing.
Produce. One thing that Albanians really like to grow: tobacco. They just do. Now, Albania is also loaded with a bunch of other types of landscapes, like rolling green hills and lush forests, and very nice warm temperate beaches, such as the ones at Samil and Durres. Speaking of which, interesting factoid, if you go to Albania, pretty much everywhere around the entire country, you'll notice these World War II concrete war bunkers located everywhere. The reason being because in the middle of the 20th century, the old communist leader Enver Hoxha took over and built these war bunkers, about 700,000 of them, and placed them all over the country as a means for militaristic preparation. Now, of course, that costed the country a lot of money that they pretty much didn't have, and it was a poor investment because they never really needed them. However, to this day, it's almost like a little I Spy game. When you go to Albania, see how many bunkers you can find.
Okay, that's a fun factoid. I mean, like, I get, like, the paranoia of the time and why somebody would want to, like, work on that sort of, like, their military infrastructure in that sense. But, like, yeah, that seems a little silly. But, like, that's only me basing that off of, like, a very little understanding of what the broad political feelings were about it. But clearly they over-invested in that, at least.
Now, in terms of its demographics, about 85%, the vast majority of people in Albania identify as ethnically Albanian. Now, there are some minorities like Greeks and Macedonians and Montenegrins as well. The vast majority of people in Albania also speak the Albanian language, which is one of the most distinguishable facets of this country. The Albanian language to this day relates to no other Indo-European language branch in the world. It stands alone as its own, and it's a very unique language. Albania also has a very interesting faith-based background. About 60% of the people identify as non-denominational or secular Muslim, and about 20% identify as Christian, mostly Catholic or Orthodox. Although historically, Albania at one point banned all religious freedom and was declared the very first atheist state in the entire world during the communist regime until 1992.
Oh, that's different. It's not entirely surprising that something like that could happen, but like its significance in doing that before others, like that is very interesting. And one thing I would love to learn a little bit about, because I love to see the impact. It's tragic, but the impact of like top bottom social governing, I guess, like changing, like completely uprooting somebody's social system, like from the seat of government, because like in a lot of times when social change happens, you have to prepare the people for it. You have to make sure that they can shift into that. But to see like the impact of like kind of forcing that change from the top, that's such a fascinating view of history. So there's something there in Albania. That is probably the most interesting factoid he's given so far.
Interesting side note, in Albania they shake their head to say yes and they nod their head to say no. The friend zone. This is where things get a little interesting because historically Albania has probably been one of the most socially awkward countries in the world. Shortly after Albania was relinquished from the Ottoman Empire, Albania kind of went through a few decades of not exactly quite knowing how to be Albania again. And that's when the Soviets came in. For a while, Albania was part of the Soviet bloc. However, during the sino-Soviet split, which is something we will discuss all that drama in another video, Albania actually decided to side with China and not Russia, which strategically may have been a bad decision. The reason being because that made China Albania's only ally in the world. And
I mean, like looking at how far they are and how close they are to the Soviet Union, yeah, it's not going to be easy for China to support them, and they're little in the grand scheme of things.
And it can get kind of hard when your only ally in the world isn't even close to you geographically. And to add on top of that, in the 70s, China was kind of like, look, Albania, it was cute how you wanted to tag along, but you're on your own. And then Albania had no allies. In the last few years of communism and following the death of Enver Hoxha, Albania kind of saw what was going on and they were like, yeah, we kind of need to turn things around. And finally, in 1990, the communism regime ended, making Albania a constitutional republic. This opened up a lot of doors. And from the 90s up until today, Albania has become one of the most social countries in the world, opening up its arms, trying to regain as many diplomatic relations as it can with as many countries, and to this day has about 40 embassies in 40 different countries. Albania is not a social butterfly. Albania is a social pterodactyl. They even named a street after George W. Bush after he visited there one time in 2007. Interesting side note, there's an early episode of The Simpsons in which Bart signs up for a foreign exchange student program and goes to France, whereas the Simpson family receives an exchange student named Adil from Albania. The episode was filmed in 1990, right before the fall of communism in Albania, and lightly portrays the tensions between Americans and Soviet-influenced nations back in that time. In terms of its best friend, Albania would probably consider Kosovo.
It's interesting that that Albania has such a dramatic switch, though, when the communist regime falls. Just the fact that it goes from what feels like this seemingly isolationist civilization like early on, and then it goes into this like communist thing, but then it just makes like a full shift to sort of like a modern independent but like caught up in like this international system that we have here. Like I kind of like the transformation. It's interesting.
Kosovo their best friend, considering that the vast majority of people Albania would probably consider Kosovo their best friend, considering that the vast majority of people in Kosovo are Albanians. Gotta support your brothers. In conclusion, Albania may have been that little reserved, quiet kid, and yeah, maybe they made a few bad decisions here and there historically, but they really started to turn things around, and you gotta give that for them. Stay tuned, Algeria is coming up next.
Ooh, Algeria. Like, I forgot, I think I forgot about Algeria. I was trying to name all of the A countries off the top of my head. I might have overlooked that one. That was fun, and I'm excited to learn a little bit about Algeria. We got another country with some green and red, and that's what they got on their flag. Like, we've got, like, seemingly a predominantly Muslim country. So that should be cool. That should be really cool. Those countries are a little bit hard to follow for me, like from place to place, and like to really differentiate a lot of them culturally. It wasn't until like I can't remember when I learned the difference between Sunni and Shia, but it took longer than it should have for me to really understand the difference. So like I know that the predominantly Muslim countries, they are so much more diverse than a lot of Americans seem to think. So I'm excited to learn about all of them, really. But next we're going to be doing Algeria. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys are enjoying the Geography Now stuff, because I'm going to be doing some more of it going forward. All right. Thank you, and I will see you guys tomorrow with some more videos. All right. Bye.